Hello everybody and welcome back to another Sign Knows to Score video, where today we have got another Prem Predictions video for game week number 4. And again, just a shout out to everybody that has so far watched the videos, has liked, commented and subscribed. It really does mean a lot to me, and again, if you could do it for this video, it is truly appreciated. And now, as always, before we get into the predictions, we do the shout of the week, the bank of the week, just so we can kind of reflect on the previous game week. So, as always, in these videos, for those of you that are new, we do Prem predictions as a group as well. So we've got 37 people involved, 5 points for correct score, 2 points for correct results, and of course nothing if you get, well, nowhere near any of the results or scores. And so, yeah, so to begin, we'll get into the shout of the week. Now, the first shout of the week, I'll say first, there's been a number of shout of the weeks for the previous game week. One of them that I actually got my name in there for, which I was the only person to have Liverpool beating Arsenal 1-0 out of 37 people. Somebody else got another shout of the week for Man Utd beating Burnley 3-2, which I thought was a bit of a pretty mega shout of the week, to be honest with you. I think that outdoes mine. However, it doesn't outdo it for credit, so yeah, it's still shout of the week. And then someone else called Kieran, who got 2 shout of the weeks in one game week, which is pretty absurd, to be honest with you. So they got 1-0 Bournemouth against Spurs, which again is a great shout. And then Leeds Newcastle 0-0, which again you could see it happening, being a tight encounter. So well done, Kieran, for getting 2 shout of the weeks in 1 week. So yeah, fair play to him. And the bank of the week was Chelsea. Now 33 people got the correct result, and 6 people got the correct score of 2-0 against Fulham. So yeah, fair play to those people too. And the shock of the week, as I'm sure everybody could probably work out, was West Ham beating Nottingham Forest 3-0 away at the City Ground. I mean, yeah, who even saw West Ham getting a draw there? If you did, definitely not a win. So, yeah, nobody got the correct result there. As, again, you could imagine, and unfortunately for me, my last man standing, that is me out, because I went against the grain. I thought, do you know what, I'll go for Man United, and changed it last second to Nottingham Forest, defeating the plan that I initially had for the first 10 game weeks. So, yeah, my own fault there. I should have believed in Man United more, which is a statement I never thought I'd say. But yeah, getting into the game week 4 now, the next game week coming up. So it kicks off again with quite a tasty fixture maybe between Arsenal and Nottingham Forest. So, again, good signings from Nottingham Forest, especially at the back end of the window there, with Delaney Blackwell as well there on the wing. I think they've got a lot of quality now at top, and Chris Wood is always known for scoring above his expected goals too, so he's very clinical. Obviously, Arsenal are going to need a pick-me-up, aren't they, after losing to Liverpool at Anfield, which, okay, you've got to factor in these Anfield. It's a close game, and it took a worldly free kick there to get over the line there for Liverpool. Otherwise, it did have 0-0 written all over it, because it was a pretty poor game to watch, wasn't it? It was just very tight. So, yeah, I mean, look, Forest also need to come back from a shocking 3-0 defeat at home against West Ham. I think the quality they've got there now, yes, some players will probably need to gel because they have made a lot of changes, where Arsenal have always got a consistent squad, haven't they, for the most part. I don't think it'll be straightforward for Arsenal. I mean, even last season you saw them draw into the likes of Everton as well, which, no disrespect, because last season Everton probably weren't expected to be a great team, or not as well as expected to do this year. So they drew a few games last year at the Emirates, which they probably didn't expect. I think they'll get over the line here though now, especially after defeat against Liverpool, and I've seen them scraping over the line with a 2-1 win. Probably another set piece, because they are set piece FC. Whether they score one from open play is yet to be known in this game, because Forest are obviously known to be quite well organised and structured, aren't they? So yeah, I think it'd be a tight affair. 2-1. Everton versus Villa. So yeah, so good window for overall for Everton, and not so much for Villa. So for me, it feels a little bit fairly straightforward, where Everton are picking up momentum now at home. You've got Jack Grealish there with 2 starts and 4 assists. Some decent signings as too for Everton there. And I just see Villa struggling up top still in terms of attacking. Yes, they brought in Harvey Elliott now. I just don't see where the goals are coming from currently, unless all of a sudden they're coming to form after the international break, and that's made a big difference. I think that has come at a good time for Aston Villa. I think, you look at Brighton, Everton, when Brighton visited them and they lost 2-0, where Brighton were, in my opinion, the better team but couldn't score the goals. I just don't see how Villa are going to do it when they literally haven't scored a goal. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a tight affair overall, but I think Everton will nudge it being at home with the fans behind and the crowd. So I'm going to go 1-0 for Everton. Newcastle v Wolves, and yeah, so Gordon obviously picked up that red card, so he's still not going to be back for another 2 matches. Plenty of options though now for Newcastle. I expect Alanga to start after a lack of quality in the game against Leeds. Wolves with an underwhelming transfer window too, a lot more underwhelming than Newcastle's because they did actually bring in some bodies. I just don't expect Wolves to be coming away here with any joy, and I think it's going to be a real difficult season for them now. I expected more from them in the transfer window, especially given the start. I mean, he's got a lot on his hands, Vitor Pereira there, so wow, yeah, he's going to have to work wonders again like last year, but he's got even less squad quality. So yeah, I do see it being a fairly comfortable win here at St James's Park, and I'm going to go a comfortable 2-0, Wolves not to score, Newcastle with a clean sheet, and then they're going to move swiftly on to their next fixture in the following game week. And now we have what I think is going to be maybe the best game of the week in terms of end-to-end basketball type play. Is Bournemouth v Brighton. So yeah, so Bournemouth, I mean, battered Spurs away. I do think the 1-0 scoreline was very flattering to Spurs. It could have been 2-3-0. I mean, what, Spurs didn't have like 3 shots in the whole game in the first 10 minutes or 5 minutes. So yeah, so I think Bournemouth look to be hot on it, don't they? Keeping back-to-back clean sheets. Okay, yes, one was against 10-man Wolves, but brand new defence, and they seem to be doing a bit so far. Brighton have done very well too. They were a bit unfortunate with the last-minute equaliser against Fulham, but yeah, anyone to beat Man City, you come away with that and think, yeah, that was a fantastic result, don't you? I don't think you'll ever come away from beating Man City thinking, yeah, we should have won that, and we were always expecting to win it. But Brighton have had Man City's number in recent years, so fair play to them there. And again, overturn a 1-0 deficit, it just shows the fight that Brighton have too. And yeah, so I think, look, they could have been further down at half time. I thought they were poor in the first half, but the second half they absolutely obliterated Man City. So yeah, they can thank Haaland for missing his chances in the first half. But yeah, I think this does sort of set up what will be a very attacking encounter. And like I said, maybe game of the week, so keep an eye on it. I think, if you're a betting man, you're going to go over 2.5 goals here. I think that could be a banker. Watch it be 0-0 now and I'll have pie in my face, so yeah. But Brighton did do the double over Bournemouth last year. So I can imagine them wanting a bit of revenge there. It is the South Coast derby, isn't it? So yeah, so there's the rivalry there in that aspect of the game. So it could be quite fierce as well as attacking. It is a tough one to call, this one. I think the easiest thing when you're a bit unsure is to go right down the middle. But like I said, there's going to be goals, so I'm going to go 2-2 on this one. Bringing us nicely onto probably not game of the week is Fulham versus Leeds. And yeah, Fulham have kept hold of a lot of the players in, brought in Kevin, last transfer window on the final day when the transfer deadline day. An agreement in place between Fulham and Leeds collapsed for Wilson on the deadline day too. So yeah, so Leeds might want instant revenge there for whatever happened behind the scenes. Fulham were a little unlucky at Chelsea with the disallowed goal, which could have swung the momentum of the game. So yeah, arguably it could have had a different result if that didn't occur. Leeds notoriously struggle down in London too, so I think that's something to factor in here. I think Fulham will just have about too much, unfortunately, as being a Leeds fan. But yeah, I think Ampadu, Tanaka probably expected to be back, DCL and Okafor with more training and more fitness in the legs might be beneficial. I just think Leeds in London, it's just never been good. It just seems to be too much of a struggle. So I think it'd be a first win for Fulham this season come here. But I don't think it'd be pretty in the slightest, but I think they'll get over the line with a 2-1 victory because I think Marco Silva is a top-class manager. Crystal Palace versus Sunderland, and yes, for me this is the first real test for Sunderland. In my opinion, they've played 3 relegation candidates in West Ham, Brentford and of course Burnley. They've come out there with 6 out of 9 points, which is a reasonable tally for them. I think they would have been happy with 7 or even 9 because you never want to lose against what you would consider relegation candidates. But yeah, it's a decent start. They have got very low XGs though, considering the teams they've played against, but have scored 5 goals, so they're going to have to really maintain that clinical finishing if they are to conjure the points and the goals that they'll need to stay up this season. Yeah, I mean, look, Crystal Palace on the other hand managed to get Gay on the final day of the season after Glasner threatened to walk, so I suppose to get Glasner and Gay, which is massive for them. You know, they had a nice 3-0 win away at Villa Park as well. They have lost Eze, of course. I mean, they brought in Pina, didn't they? I don't think he's... They could really have replaced Eze instantly, but they have brought, you know, he's a decent player, Pina, and definitely one for the future. Is he going to come tearing up in the Premier League straight away? I'd be very surprised. Glasgow will have done a spectacular job if he comes in and starts scoring straight off the rip. I think based on what I've seen, because I have watched 2 of the Sunderland games, the Burnley one in particular with Sunderland, they didn't look amazing, but they weren't the worst team in the Burnley game. I think that should have been a draw. I think Palace will come through this though at home. It's always a good atmosphere at Selhurst Park, and I think it will be a difficult game for Crystal Palace. It won't be easy by any stretch of imagination. I think 2-1 is probably the correct scoreline here. West Ham versus Tottenham. So yeah, out of nowhere, West Ham went at City Ground 3-0. I mean, as we established earlier in the video, it's no surprise that nobody got West Ham to win, or probably even draw, to be honest with you. So, I mean, look, it was all in the last 10 minutes. However, can that instill confidence moving into the next game? I mean, as a West Ham fan, you're hoping that's going to be the case. They brought in a few bodies, didn't they, on the transfer? Well, the last couple of days of transfer window. So, look, they've got to get them gelled in as well. I don't know. I just feel like up top and in both boxes, really, they're still lacking in quality. I don't know if Igor Julio, I believe his name is going to come. You know, he's going to have to do a stellar job and put his body on the line, getting blocks in straight away. He's going to have to make a real difference, real quick, isn't he, for West Ham? I mean, look, Spurs looked out of ideas too against Bournemouth, and they'd be hoping it was a one-off. I just think West Ham don't have the quality of Bournemouth across the pitch, and I think for the style of play, I think Spurs will take advantage, especially in transition here. I think when you've got the likes of Brennan Johnson running at you as well, and well, I mean, look, they've got lots of players. Richarlison's been doing very well and scored a world, didn't he, a couple of weeks back. I just think with Kudus too. Yes, okay, he came from West Ham. You know, there's going to be a bit of a fight there. So, yeah, I think it will go back to normality for Spurs and normality for the first 2 game weeks for West Ham. I think it'd be 2-1. I think again it is a derby, isn't it? A London derby, so it will be a bit edgy at times. But yeah, I think 2-1 is the correct scoreline here again. Brentford v Chelsea. So Brentford have had a really disappointing transfer window overall. You know, they've lost Vizeh as well now on the final day. So where do the goals come from now? I mean, you know, Shade or Shard, however you pronounce his name, has missed a penalty against Sunderland too. He didn't score that many goals last year. He does look promising still, but I think his confidence is lacking. So Keith Andrews really have to get him firing, considering what they've lost in the squad. You know, and Burmo and Vizeh together, I think they had 39 goals between them and 50 goal contributions out of the 66 that was scored for Brentford last season. So where did the goals come from? I mean, look, they brought in Dango, which always makes me think of the Django. I do think, yeah, I mean, look, I do think Dango Tara has been a good signing. I think that he's got obviously big voids to fill there for Burma and Vizeh put together. I think it's impossible. So I think it'd be a straightforward afternoon for Chelsea, who haven't looked amazing, haven't hit, you know, 5th gear as of yet. But have brought in some good signings of Chelsea. I just think they'd be too strong with the squad depth across the board, and even if it's 0-0, 1-0 to Chelsea in the 65th, 70th minute, I think they'll go on and score another goal here. Yeah, I think another comfortable 2-0. It's disappointing for me because everyone wants Brentford to do well, but from a Leeds perspective, you kind of want not to do well. So yeah, I think it does have a Chelsea win written all over it, and probably a clean sheet too. So 2-0 Chelsea. Bringing us on to Burnley versus Liverpool. Now, Burnley have, you know, had the toughest start for all of the newly promoted teams over 4 fixtures, haven't they? Maybe even the league, if you think about it. And we'll be pleased to have gotten 3 against Sunderland, really. So yeah, I mean, look, Liverpool aren't in 5th gear yet, but I've won all 3 matches, haven't they? With one against Arsenal in the title race clash. So yeah, for them, confidence will be there. You know, Wirtz is yet to have a goal contribution, so they'll be looking at him to hopefully get off the board, especially against a team like a Burnley who will probably be playing in a low block. So you'll be looking at players like Wirtz to be able to unlock the door, unlock the defence. So from a Burnley perspective, look, they haven't looked bad at all, have they? 3-0 was flatter against Spurs. They overcame Sunderland, which I thought was tighter than 2-0 and could have gone Sunderland's way had Sunderland taken the opportunities early on. Nearly got over the line against Man United with a draw after a decent comeback there as well. But then Man United are Man United, and what can you really take from those games? It's always difficult to say, it was a really, how you can compare your performance against Man United, because Man United are so inconsistent. Again, I think as everyone will probably have here, you'd imagine it'd be a fairly routine win for Liverpool here. I think it'd be comfortable for them defensively. I don't see Burnley scoring here even at Turf Moor. I think they'll unlock the defence, and I do see Wirtz here probably unlocking the defence one way or another with a goal or an assist, and I think he'll get off the on the board now with one of those. I think it'd be a comfortable 2-0 day at the office for Liverpool and a clean sheet at hand for them to move on to the next game week, which Burnley won't be looking at this game thinking, yeah, this is a must win or even a draw. Which then does bring us on to the biggest game of the game week. You have the Manchester derby, Man City at home against Manchester United. Back-to-back losses for Guardiola. And I mean, even at this stage, it does feel like the title could be out of reach unless they do what City do and go on a ridiculous winning run. But that's what it will take at this point. They'll probably need to go on back-to-back 15 winning runs, won't they? Minimum now to be close to the title. It just feels like that when you've got Arsenal and Liverpool who perform at such a high level too. Man United, of course, got away with it, didn't they, against Fulham with a draw. And, of course, a terrible loss against Grimsby on penalties, which was actually hilarious. But yeah, so it's been a bizarre start to the season for Man United and arguably Man City, although, Man City renowned to struggle against Brighton last season in particular. And Man United actually do well against the rivals, don't they? And they took 4 points against City last season. The counter-attack is what did City more against Brighton, leaving themselves really exposed at the back. I think their lack of pace at the back is going to be their biggest downfall this year. And so for me, I feel like Man United, as to do against Man City, it seems recently, annoyingly for Man City fans, it feels like they might nick something here, just to really twist a knife in for Guardiola here to only gain 1 point out of 9 in the last 3 games. I think it'd be a miserable derby day draw, and I think it'll be 1-1 split down the middle. And that's it. That's the end of the predictions for this week. Again, please like, comment, and subscribe. I will reply where I can on the comments. And yeah, until the next one, have a great day and all the best, and see you in the next one.